What if I tell you that the secret to receiving instant money is not hidden in complicated rituals, endless repetitions, or desperate pleas to the universe, but in one simple phrase that Neville Goddard emphasized could shift your entire wealth consciousness in a matter of moments? Because Neville always taught that words were not magical on their own, but became powerful when fused with the feeling of already having. And this is where most people miss the point, because they say affirmations as if they are begging, when in truth they should be affirming from a state of fullness. So imagine for a moment how your life would feel if you could bypass doubt, skip the frustration of waiting, and step directly into the identity of someone who already possesses wealth right now. And Neville's brilliance was in teaching that when you say a phrase like, "It is done," or "I have it," with conviction, your subconscious accepts that as reality and begins rearranging everything in your outer world to match that truth. And this is why he insisted that imagination combined with feeling is creation, not just a nice idea, but the very law of consciousness at work. Because when you repeat a phrase that positions you as already wealthy, you impress your subconscious with an image of completion. And that image does not remain still, but acts like a seed that grows into visible results. And the beauty of this process is that it bypasses struggle and goes straight into fulfillment, which is why so many of Neville's students reported sudden money appearing in unexpected ways once they mastered this art. And while skeptics might laugh at the idea of speaking a phrase and expecting cash to show up, Neville would remind them that every dollar, every opportunity, and every job offer first existed as an imaginal act before it materialized. And when you align your affirmations with the emotional certainty that it is already yours, the world has no choice but to confirm it, because consciousness is the only reality. And even though you might feel resistance the first few times you say the phrase, persistence is the key to breaking through the old belief system that says wealth must come slowly or painfully. So you begin by speaking the phrase and allowing yourself to truly feel that warmth of completion, to see the bank balance full, to imagine the wallet thick, to sense the relief of bills paid and dreams funded. And as you do this consistently, you will notice subtle shifts first, like small gifts, discounts, or unexpected kindness, and then larger manifestations, until finally the phrase feels like the most natural identity you could ever claim. Because in that moment you are no longer affirming for money, but affirming as money. And that shift is the difference between desire and fulfillment, between waiting and receiving, between hope and certainty. And Neville knew that once you understood this, your relationship with money would never again be the same. Because now you are operating from the awareness of abundance and not from the illusion of lack. And it all begins with that one phrase that instantly reprograms your wealth consciousness into alignment with the reality you wish to live. When you begin to realize that the phrase itself is not a string of magic words, but a direct trigger that shifts your self-concept into the state of already having, you also begin to understand why Neville insisted on the importance of imagination and feeling. Because words without emotion are like seeds thrown on hard ground, unable to take root. Yet when spoken with conviction and accompanied by the inner movie of already being provided for, they sink deeply into the subconscious where all creation begins. And this is where the true secret of instant money lies. For wealth is not about the external numbers you see in your account, but about the inner conviction that you are already sustained and supplied. So as you repeat a phrase like "it is done," or "I am wealthy now," you are not waiting for proof, but giving your subconscious the only instruction it knows how to obey, which is to outpicture in your life the reality you inwardly accept. And as this acceptance grows stronger, the outer world begins bending toward your inner claim, rearranging circumstances, aligning people, and opening doors that were once closed, until money flows in ways that seem coincidental to those who do not understand, but perfectly logical to the one practicing Neville's teachings. Because the outer is always the shadow of the inner. And while most people spend their lives fighting shadows, you are now learning to work with the source light itself, which is your own consciousness. And the fascinating part is that Neville always emphasized you need not strain or force these affirmations, but simply relax into them as if they were already true, much like recalling a fond memory rather than striving for a distant goal. And the more natural this process feels, the quicker money arrives. Because effort signals lack, while ease signals completion. And as you keep affirming with calm authority, you will notice that you no longer check or question whether it is working, since the feeling of wealth becomes more familiar than the old habit of doubt. And at that stage, you are not trying to get instant money. You are simply living in the end where money already exists for you. And this is the difference between hoping and knowing, between wishing and claiming, between saying the words as a ritual and embodying them as identity. For once you understand that wealth is not something you chase, but something you already are, the phrase becomes a mirror reflecting your true state back to you. And your life inevitably matches that reflection with visible results, proving Neville's point that consciousness is the only reality. And this realization sets the stage for understanding why certain affirmations work instantly while others seem to take forever. A mystery we can uncover as we continue the journey. The reason some affirmations appear to bring results instantly while others seem delayed is because of the hidden difference between affirming from lack and affirming from fulfillment. Since when you say, "I want money now," your subconscious hears only the state of wanting, and therefore continues to reflect wanting back to you. But when you declare, "I have it," or "it is done," you impress the mind with the reality of completion. And this is exactly why Neville Goddard insisted that affirmations must always be in the present tense and aligned with the feeling of already having. Because the subconscious does not operate on logic or future projection, but responds only to the emotional certainty of now. And if you look closely at your own experiences, you will notice that the times money came easily were the times you were not desperately chasing it, but already felt secure in some way, which proves that money flows naturally to the state of abundance. And so when you adopt the phrase of instant wealth consciousness, you bypass the desperate vibration and step straight into the reality of being supplied. And as you hold this state consistently, the outer world begins to rearrange in your favor, often in ways that surprise you, because the conscious mind cannot predict how the channels of supply will open. Yet the subconscious mind knows how to orchestrate countless details without effort, and the more you relax into this knowing, the faster results appear. For resistance is only created by watching the clock, measuring progress, or doubting the unseen, while faith releases the energy to work unhindered. And Neville's students often testified that once they stopped trying to manifest and simply lived in the assumption of already having, instant changes happened in their finances, sometimes through unexpected checks, sometimes through new opportunities, and sometimes through people suddenly showing up to assist them, which illustrates that the power is not in the phrase alone, but in the consciousness the phrase awakens. And as you internalize this truth, you begin to see why one short affirmation can transform your life more than hours of mechanical repetition. Because the key is not quantity of words, but quality of belief. And when you declare from the end, the subconscious accepts it as fact and sets everything into motion to prove it outwardly. And this is why Neville often said, "The world is nothing more than yourself pushed out," meaning your inner assumptions inevitably take shape in the external world. And once you grasp this principle, you will never again question whether affirmations work. You will only focus on whether you are affirming from the state of fulfillment or from the illusion of lack. And that understanding alone becomes the bridge to mastering the art of instant manifestation, leading us deeper into why Neville considered imagination the real power behind wealth creation. Neville Goddard always returned to the central theme that imagination creates reality. And he would go so far as to say that imagining yourself in possession of wealth is far more effective than begging the outer world to provide it, because imagination is not just daydreaming, but the act of entering into the state of the wish fulfilled until it feels real. And when you combine this with a short, powerful phrase like, "It is done," the subconscious mind treats the inner scene as fact and begins projecting it outward, which is why Neville insisted that the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret ingredient, since without it, the words remain empty. But with it, they become creative commands. And you can test this truth in your own life by closing your eyes, hearing yourself say the affirmation, and simultaneously seeing the bank account, the cash in hand, or the bill stamped paid. Because when all your senses join in that imaginal act, the subconscious cannot distinguish it from physical reality, and this is where the speed of manifestation comes into play. For the more vivid and natural the scene, the faster money arrives, often through channels you never expected. And the interesting part is that you do not need to know how it will come. You only need to accept that it already has. Allowing the unseen intelligence of your own consciousness to handle the details, because the moment you claim the state of wealth inwardly, the process has already begun, and the outer world is simply catching up to your inner decision, much like a movie reel projecting onto a screen where the film has already been created, and what you see is only the unfolding of what exists. So in the same way, when you affirm with imagination, the wealth is already yours in the invisible realm and will soon be seen in the visible. And those who doubt this law often sabotage themselves by clinging to appearances, forgetting that appearances are always the past, never the present reality of consciousness, which is why Neville advised to live from the end and ignore the evidence until it aligns. And as you practice this consistently, you begin to experience a strange calm, because you no longer measure your life by what is missing, but by what you have already claimed within. And this calm is not passive but powerful, since it signals the subconscious that no further effort is required, which speeds up the outpicturing. And it is here that the phrase becomes more than words and transforms into an anchor that keeps you in the state of wealth no matter what is happening around you, proving once again that imagination fused with a simple affirmation is the true gateway to instant money manifestation. Once you truly understand that imagination is the engine and the affirmation is the spark, you start to notice how every thought, word, and feeling contributes either to building wealth or reinforcing lack. Because Neville's teachings make it clear that money is never about the outer circumstances, but about the state you occupy internally. And this is why so many people struggle endlessly. They are constantly affirming scarcity, even when they say the words, "I want money," because the underlying feeling contradicts the phrase. Whereas when you combine "I have it" with the vivid imagining of cash, abundance, and opportunity already present, the subconscious receives a single, unambiguous command to rearrange reality in alignment with that state. And as you persist in this practice, you will notice subtle signs at first. Small coincidences, unexpected gifts, or timely encounters, and each one is a confirmation that the inner world is now governing the outer. And the fascinating part is that the mind does not require complex reasoning to make it happen. It simply executes the inner assumption until the visible reality matches. And as you continue, those coincidences grow into significant manifestations, such as sudden payments, business opportunities, or financial breakthroughs, all flowing effortlessly because the effort has been transferred to the subconscious, which never questions or hesitates. And while the conscious mind might be tempted to doubt or demand evidence, Neville advised staying in the feeling of certainty as if the result is already accomplished, because every moment of doubt dilutes the signal you are sending. And in practicing this, you learn that patience is not passive waiting, but an active maintenance of the end state within. And the more you can hold that reality as already yours, the faster the outer world conforms. Until eventually, the money arrives not as a surprise, but as a natural confirmation of what you have already assumed. And this is precisely why one carefully chosen phrase, repeated with feeling and supported by imaginative visualization, is sufficient to reprogram your entire wealth consciousness. Because it is not about accumulation, but about identity. And once your identity anchored in abundance, every action, every thought, and every circumstance begins to align with that state, showing you that instant money is less about timing or luck, and entirely about becoming the person who naturally embodies wealth, which is exactly what Neville wanted all of his students to realize. that they need only claim the state inwardly for the outer world to obey. What makes this process even more remarkable is that it does not depend on external validation or visible proof, because Neville repeatedly emphasized that the world outside is always secondary to the inner assumption. And the moment you live and feel from the end of having already received, the outer circumstances inevitably follow, often in ways that surprise you because they do not always match the exact picture you imagined. Yet they satisfy the feeling perfectly. And this is why flexibility within imagination is important, for clinging rigidly to a single scenario can create resistance, whereas allowing the subconscious to orchestrate the manifestation opens up doors you could never have planned. And as you continue to repeat your chosen affirmation, letting each word resonate deeply with the certainty of fulfillment, you will notice the subtle disappearance of fear, doubt, and impatience, replaced instead by a calm expectation that aligns you with the flow of abundance. And Neville's genius was in teaching that this internal alignment is far more crucial than external effort, because every action you take from the state of already having becomes empowered, efficient, and in harmony with the invisible law of creation. And the more you inhabit this state, the more effortless life becomes, as if the universe conspires on your behalf without you needing to orchestrate anything consciously. And you begin to see that money is never earned or chased, but simply allowed to manifest when consciousness aligns. And the beauty of a short, powerful phrase is that it acts as an anchor, a reminder to keep returning to the feeling of completion whenever doubt creeps in. And this is why Neville often recommended repeating it before sleep or upon waking, moments when the mind is most receptive and the imagination can impress the subconscious most vividly. And with consistent practice, the phrase stops being a tool and becomes a natural extension of your identity, because your mind now defaults to the state of abundance, and all circumstances, opportunities, and people start appearing as natural expressions of that inner reality, proving that wealth is truly a reflection of consciousness. And once you fully grasp this principle, instant money is no longer a concept or wish, but a lived experience, a continuous unfolding of what you have already assumed. And this understanding leads naturally into discovering why some people can affirm for years without results, while others experience sudden financial shifts almost immediately, revealing the subtle difference between merely saying words and embodying them with full conviction. The subtle difference between affirming ineffectively and experiencing instant financial shifts lies entirely in the depth of belief and the consistency of feeling, because Neville explained that words alone are powerless if the inner state contradicts them, and so many who recite affirmations mechanically remain in lack, simply because their mind and emotions are still anchored in scarcity. Whereas those who feel the reality of wealth as if it is already theirs trigger the subconscious to align everything in their outer world, and this alignment often manifests as opportunities, unexpected payments, or sudden windfalls that seem miraculous to those unaware of the law. Yet to the practitioner, it is perfectly natural, because the inner assumption always dictates the outer reality, and the key is to maintain that assumption regardless of appearances, refusing to be swayed by the temporary lack. And as this practice deepens, you begin to notice a profound shift in perception, where money no longer feels external or scarce, but internal and abundant. And every action, thought, or encounter begins to support this inner state without conscious effort. And Neville emphasized that the fastest way to impress the subconscious is through a combination of imagination, feeling, and repetition, especially when experienced in relaxed moments like just before sleep or upon waking, because the mind is most receptive and undistracted at these times, allowing the affirmation to penetrate deeply. And as you continue to live from this end state, you gradually stop chasing money and instead allow it to flow naturally. And the elegance of this process is that you begin to embody wealth as identity rather than pursue it as a goal. So every interaction and decision you make is automatically aligned with abundance, and the outer world begins reflecting this state back to you consistently, until financial manifestations no longer surprise you, but confirm what you have always assumed internally. And this is why Neville taught that living in the end is the master key to all forms of instant manifestation, because the inner reality is the only one that truly creates. And understanding this principle allows you to use a single, well-chosen phrase to reprogram your wealth consciousness completely, unlocking the door to money that appears effortlessly, repeatedly, and without resistance. As you deepen your understanding of Neville's teachings, you begin to see that the mind does not distinguish between what is imagined vividly and what is physically present, because the subconscious interprets the feeling of reality as truth. And this is why imagining yourself already in possession of money while repeating your chosen affirmation works faster than merely hoping or wishing. And the process is simple yet profound. Close your eyes, feel the weight of the money in your hands, hear the confirmation of deposits or checks arriving, sense the relief of debts paid and opportunities unlocked, and let the phrase, "It is done," or "I have it now," echo through your consciousness as if nothing could be truer. And as you maintain this inner state consistently, the outer world begins bending to match it, often in ways that surprise you, because the channels of supply operate beyond your conscious calculation. Yet they are always perfectly orchestrated by your subconscious assumption, and the key is to persist without clinging or doubting. For every moment of uncertainty weakens the signal, while every instant of full acceptance strengthens it. And Neville always reminded that patience in this process is not waiting, but living in the end without interference, allowing the subconscious to complete the task without pressure. And the more naturally you embody this state, the more effortless and instantaneous manifestations become, until what once seemed impossible, unexpected checks, sudden opportunities, or instant payments, becomes a routine part of your experience, proving that abundance is a reflection of consciousness, not circumstance. And as this understanding settles into your being, the phrase transforms from a tool into a way of life, a habitual anchor that keeps you aligned with wealth, no matter what appears externally. And with continued practice, you will notice your thoughts, actions, and decisions automatically supporting this inner reality, so that money, opportunities, and resources flow in perfect harmony with your assumed state. And this realization leads naturally into exploring why many people fail to manifest quickly, despite repeating affirmations, revealing that the missing ingredient is always the depth of feeling and the unwavering acceptance of already having, which we will uncover in the next part. The reason many people fail to manifest money quickly, despite repeating affirmations, is because they unknowingly contradict the words with hidden doubts, fears, or disbelief. And Neville made it clear that the subconscious does not respond to words alone, but to the feeling impressed upon them. So when you say, "I have it now," but secretly worry about bills, scarcity, or past failures, the subconscious hears only the fear and continues to reflect that reality back. And this is why mastering the inner state is far more important than mere repetition, because the outer world is always a mirror of your inner assumption. And as soon as you release doubt and embody the absolute certainty of already having, the same words that previously seemed ineffective begin to work almost instantly, creating opportunities, unexpected money, and circumstances that feel orchestrated beyond your control, yet perfectly logical to the subconscious law at work. And Neville emphasized that persistence in living from the end, coupled with vivid imagination and unwavering feeling, is what impresses the mind deeply enough to produce tangible results. And interestingly, this inner work also eliminates the anxious chasing or struggle that so often delays manifestation, allowing money to flow naturally as a byproduct of identity rather than desire. And as you continue practicing, subtle signs emerge first, small coincidences, timely connections, or little windfalls, which serve as confirmation that the subconscious is responding and that the outer world is catching up, and these signs gradually increase in magnitude until full financial shifts occur, proving that your inner world is now the dominant force shaping reality. And the more you trust and maintain this state, the more effortless and instantaneous the manifestations become, because the subconscious is simply executing the instruction it has been given, without resistance or limitation. And once you internalize this principle, you no longer question the process, but instead focus on maintaining the feeling of completion, which is why Neville's approach works so dramatically compared to conventional methods. because it bypasses struggle, effort, and waiting, replacing them entirely with the certainty of fulfillment. And this understanding naturally leads us to examine the subtle yet crucial role of emotional alignment in affirming wealth, which is what we will explore in the next part. Emotional alignment is the hidden catalyst that transforms a simple affirmation into a powerful creative force. Because Neville taught that words without feeling are like seeds dropped on barren soil. And while repetition alone may produce minimal results, it is the combination of imagination, belief, and the deep emotional conviction that brings the desired reality into manifestation. And when you truly feel the relief, joy, and excitement of already having the money, your subconscious has no choice but to execute the scene in the outer world, orchestrating people, opportunities, and circumstances to match the inner state. And the fascinating part is that the feeling does not need to be exaggerated or forced. It simply needs to be authentic, experienced as though it is happening right now. Which is why practicing your affirmation in a relaxed, receptive state, such as just before sleep or upon waking, dramatically increases its potency. Because the mind is naturally more impressionable at these moments, and as you maintain this emotional alignment consistently, even minor doubts begin to dissolve, replaced by a calm certainty that the result is inevitable. And this shift in emotional state alters your entire perception, making scarcity and lack feel distant, irrelevant, or even impossible. And the outer world responds accordingly, often in ways that surprise and delight, such as unexpected checks, gifts, or opportunities that seem perfectly timed. Yet the truth is that they are the natural consequence of the internal assumption you have cultivated. And Neville emphasized that the subconscious does not question or negotiate. It simply mirrors the feeling you maintain, which means that even one short, focused phrase, repeated with genuine emotion and vivid imagination, can reprogram your wealth consciousness completely, transforming not just your financial circumstances, but your identity. And as this alignment deepens, you begin to notice an effortless flow in every area of life, where challenges diminish and solutions appear naturally, proving that the emotional dimension is the secret ingredient that bridges affirmation and manifestation. And once you grasp this, you realize that instant money is less about timing or luck and entirely about living and feeling as though the wealth is already yours, which naturally leads into understanding how repetition and consistency amplify this effect in ways most people never realize. Repetition and consistency are what transform a fleeting feeling into a permanent state of consciousness. Because Neville taught that the subconscious responds not to occasional bursts of belief, but to the steady, unwavering assumption of reality. And when you commit to repeating your chosen phrase daily, with the same intensity of feeling each time, you gradually overwrite old beliefs of scarcity, creating new neural pathways that support abundance effortlessly. And this process works like a gentle, persistent current, slowly but inevitably shaping every thought, action, and circumstance around the truth you have impressed upon your mind, so that even when challenges arise or external evidence seems contradictory, your inner state remains anchored in fulfillment. And the more consistent you are, the faster the outer world adjusts to reflect this inner reality, often in ways that feel instantaneous. Because the subconscious no longer hesitates or questions, it simply executes the instruction it has been given. And Neville emphasized that this is why the timing of manifestation is not measured by the outer clock, but by the depth and persistence of your inner conviction. And as you continue the practice, you begin to notice that the phrase, once a deliberate effort, transforms into a natural extension of identity, almost as if you are living from the end at all times. And this seamless integration allows money to flow without struggle, worry, or chasing, because you are no longer trying to get it. You are simply being the state that already has it. And the fascinating part is that your subconscious orchestrates circumstances with perfect intelligence, arranging people, events, and opportunities in precise alignment with your inner assumption. And as this repetition becomes habitual, your sense of scarcity diminishes completely, replaced by an effortless expectation of abundance. And the outer world begins to mirror this state reliably, which confirms Neville's teaching that consciousness is the only reality. And once you internalize this principle, the phrase you repeat daily no longer feels like an exercise, but a declaration of who you truly are. And with this foundation in place, instant money is no longer extraordinary, but an inevitable reflection of the identity you have claimed, which naturally leads to exploring how imagination and visualization work hand in hand with repetition to accelerate the manifestation process. Imagination and visualization are the engines that drive the affirmation from mere words into tangible reality, because Neville always emphasized that the subconscious cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. And when you create a detailed mental scene of having money, feeling the relief, joy, and freedom that comes with it, your subconscious accepts it as fact and begins orchestrating circumstances to match. And this is why he often instructed his students to enter the state of the wish fulfilled as though it were happening at that very moment, allowing every sense to participate in the experience, from the sound of coins or deposits to the visual confirmation of balances and bills. And the more real and convincing the inner scene, the faster the outer manifestation appears, because the subconscious treats the imagined event with the same seriousness as reality. And as you practice combining visualization with your chosen phrase, you begin to notice subtle shifts first. Small coincidences, unexpected opportunities, or timely encounters, and then larger manifestations, until it becomes clear that the inner scene is actively shaping the external world. And the beauty of this approach is that it bypasses struggle, worry, or doubt, because the subconscious moves to fulfill the reality you are already inhabiting mentally. And the longer and more consistently you immerse yourself in this inner reality, the more effortless the flow of money becomes. And eventually the affirmation and the imagined scene merge into one seamless experience, making your inner state so compelling that the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. And Neville's genius lay in revealing that imagination, combined with feeling and consistent repetition, is the master key to instant manifestation, because it impresses the subconscious completely, bypassing resistance and unlocking the natural channels of supply. And when you internalize this practice as a daily habit, you not only attract money with unprecedented speed, but also transform your identity into someone who naturally embodies abundance. And this understanding sets the stage for the next step, learning to live from the end in every moment, so that the outer world cannot help but mirror your inner reality. Living from the end is the principle that ties all of Neville's teachings together, because it requires you to consistently occupy the mental and emotional state of already having what you desire. And when it comes to money, this means feeling the satisfaction, security, and joy of abundance as if it is present right now, rather than waiting for circumstances to change or relying on external proof. And the genius of this approach is that the subconscious does not see time or distinction between past, present, and future. It accepts only the state you assume fully, which is why imagining the end result with full conviction immediately triggers the alignment of your outer reality. And as you maintain this state in your daily life, every decision, action, and thought naturally supports the reality you are living internally, without effort or strain. And the outer world begins reflecting this internal assumption through opportunities, unexpected payments, and synchronistic events that seem perfectly timed. Yet they are simply the natural consequences of the inner state you have cultivated. And the more consistently you inhabit the end state, the less space there is for doubt, worry, or impatience to interfere, creating a momentum that accelerates manifestation in ways that feel instantaneous. And this is why Neville emphasized that living from the end is not a technique, but an identity shift, where your self-concept is rewritten to reflect the abundance you wish to experience. And as this identity takes hold, you notice that your interactions, choices, and even your perception of challenges are filtered through the lens of fulfillment, making it nearly impossible to experience lack because you are already anchored in having. And this deep internalization ensures that the phrase you repeat, the visualization you perform, and the emotional state you cultivate all work together as a single cohesive force, generating results that are consistent, rapid, and effortless. And the moment you fully embrace this way of being, Instant money is no longer a hopeful dream, but a natural consequence of living in the reality of your assumption, which naturally leads us into understanding how subconscious resistance can subtly interfere and how to remove it completely in order to maintain uninterrupted flow. Subtle subconscious resistance is often the hidden reason why some manifestations seem delayed, because even when you repeat your affirmation and vividly imagine abundance, old beliefs, fears, or unresolved doubts can quietly contradict the state you are trying to occupy. And Neville always stressed that the subconscious accepts only what is impressed upon it without conflict. So any internal disagreement between your words and your feelings creates friction that slows down the process. And the fascinating part is that most resistance is invisible at first. You might not consciously feel doubt, yet the subconscious remembers patterns of scarcity from years of conditioning, and these patterns act like hidden barriers, diverting or diluting the manifestation of instant money. And this is why self-awareness is crucial, because identifying and releasing these subtle contradictions clears the pathway for your inner assumption to operate unhindered. And techniques such as repeated mental revision, imagining the desired state with full feeling, and gently observing old limiting beliefs without judgment help dissolve resistance over time. And as this resistance fades, your affirmations gain incredible power, operating smoothly with imagination and emotion to reshape your outer circumstances. And you begin to notice that money, opportunities, and favorable circumstances now appear with remarkable ease, because the subconscious no longer meets the internal command with hesitation or counter-belief, and instead it executes the assumed reality efficiently, naturally, and without delay. And the more consistent you are in maintaining the state of having while simultaneously clearing resistance, the faster and more seamless the manifestations become. And Neville emphasized that this alignment is the ultimate key to understanding why some people see instant results while others struggle for years. Because manifestation is not about technique alone, but about the purity and unity of your inner assumption, emotion, and imagination. And once these elements are harmonized, instant money becomes a natural, inevitable consequence. And this understanding leads directly into exploring how to amplify the effect using feeling-rich states like gratitude and joy to accelerate the flow of abundance in your life. Amplifying the effect of your affirmation with rich emotional states such as gratitude, joy, and satisfaction is one of the most powerful accelerators Neville taught, because the subconscious is highly sensitive to the intensity and quality of the feelings you associate with your assumption. And when you combine your chosen phrase with genuine gratitude for having already received, or with the joy of knowing that money is flowing to you effortlessly, the inner signal becomes stronger and clearer, leaving no room for doubt or hesitation. And the fascinating part is that this emotional enhancement does not require external evidence. You can feel gratitude, joy, and satisfaction purely from imagination, as if the money has already arrived. And the subconscious accepts this as reality, immediately beginning to orchestrate circumstances to match. And as you maintain this emotional intensity consistently, subtle confirmations start appearing, like timely opportunities, unexpected payments, or helpful people entering your life, gradually escalating into more significant manifestations. And Neville emphasized that the feeling is actually the key element, because the words alone are inert without it. Yet when feeling and affirmation are fused together, they become a directive force that the subconscious executes with precision. And the more naturally and effortlessly you can generate this feeling, the faster the manifestations appear, because resistance is minimized and alignment is complete. And over time, the practice of pairing your phrase with deep gratitude and joy transforms your entire identity, so that abundance becomes your default state and scarcity feels foreign or impossible. And this shift alters not only your financial reality, but also your perception of challenges, interactions, and opportunities, making it easy to navigate life with confidence and ease. And the outer world, reflecting this inner mastery, begins to supply money and resources as a natural extension of the state you inhabit, proving that the combination of affirmation, vivid imagination, and powerful feeling is far more effective than effort, struggle, or logical planning. And And as this understanding deepens, it naturally leads us to explore the final step, embodying this state fully, so that instant money is not just a temporary result, but a permanent reality woven into the very fabric of your consciousness. Embodying the state fully means living and thinking as if the money you desire is already present. Because Neville taught that manifestation is not about waiting for external proof, but about consistently inhabiting the inner reality of fulfillment. And when you adopt this identity completely, every thought, decision, and action automatically aligns with the abundance you assume, creating a seamless flow where opportunities, resources, and money appear naturally. And the fascinating part is that once this state is truly embodied, you no longer need to rely on affirmations as separate exercises. They become integrated into your daily consciousness, reinforcing your identity as someone who already has. And this integration transforms your relationship with money, making it effortless, natural, and inevitable. Because the subconscious now perceives abundance as your permanent condition rather than a temporary goal. And as you move through life from this state, the outer world mirrors your inner reality consistently, revealing unexpected financial gifts, opportunities, and solutions to problems that once seemed insurmountable. And Neville emphasized that the more fully you inhabit this state, the less resistance you encounter. Because doubt, fear, and scarcity have no place in a consciousness that is anchored in having. And the beauty of this embodiment is that it creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The more money manifests, the more real the state feels, which in turn attracts even more, until abundance becomes effortless and habitual. And over time, your identity shifts completely, so that living in a state of wealth feels as natural as breathing, and every aspect of your life aligns to support and sustain this reality, proving that instant money is not a matter of chance, but the inevitable consequence of fully becoming the state of wealth itself. And once this principle is understood and applied consistently, it opens the door to mastering every area of life through the same method, because consciousness is the only reality, and whatever state you inhabit fully will always be reflected outwardly, which naturally leads us to explore how to maintain this state permanently for ongoing, limitless abundance. Maintaining this state permanently requires vigilance, awareness, and the deliberate choice to return to the feeling of already having whenever distraction, doubt, or external circumstances threaten to pull you away. Because Neville taught that the subconscious cannot distinguish between fleeting thoughts and dominant assumptions, and therefore any lapse in emotional alignment can temporarily slow the flow of abundance. Yet with consistent practice, you learn to recognize these subtle shifts immediately and correct them by re-entering the end state. And the fascinating part is that the more you do this, the more natural it becomes, until living from the state of wealth turns into an effortless habit rather than a conscious effort. And as this habit solidifies, you notice a profound transformation, not only in your financial reality, but also in your perception of life itself. Because scarcity, struggle, and worry begin to feel foreign, while ease, opportunity, and abundance become your default experience. And Neville emphasized that permanence comes from identity, not technique, which is why maintaining the state requires that you truly become the person who already has the money, rather than merely pretending or wishing. And as you live this identity continuously, the subconscious orchestrates your outer world with precision, producing results that align perfectly with your inner reality. And the outer manifestations are not forced or fabricated, but a natural reflection of the state you occupy. And the more you embody this state without interruption, the faster, smoother, and more effortless the flow of instant money becomes. Because the subconscious has no resistance to overcome and simply expresses what is already assumed. And over time, this practice teaches you that abundance is not earned, sought, or chased, but accepted, maintained, and lived from within. And once you grasp this principle, you can move through life with confidence, ease, and certainty, knowing that every financial need, opportunity, and desire will manifest as a natural outcome of your internal state, which naturally leads us to the next step. Understanding how to use this mastery to consciously direct abundance in multiple areas of life for limitless prosperity. Once you have mastered maintaining the state of already having, The next step is learning to consciously direct this abundance into every area of your life. Because Neville taught that consciousness is the only reality, and whatever you assume internally will inevitably be mirrored externally. And this means that money, opportunities, relationships, and personal growth all respond to the state you inhabit. So by deliberately choosing to remain in the feeling of fulfillment and wealth, you set a powerful template that the subconscious cannot ignore. And the fascinating part is that this creates a ripple effect. As you live from this abundant state, not only do financial resources appear, but your energy, creativity, and confidence expand, opening doors in unexpected areas. And as you apply your affirmation consistently, combined with imagination, vivid feeling, and unwavering assumption, the outer world responds with astonishing synchronicities, opportunities, and solutions that align perfectly with your inner vision. And the more you practice this, the more effortless it becomes, until directing abundance feels as natural as breathing. And Neville emphasized that this is the essence of mastery, not struggling for results, but living as if the results are already complete, allowing the subconscious to do the work of manifestation. And the beauty of this approach is that it removes worry, resistance, and impatience, because every situation is automatically filtered through the lens of fulfillment and wealth. And as this process solidifies, you begin to see the interconnectedness of all areas of life, realizing that abundance in one domain naturally spills over into others, creating a harmonious, prosperous life. And the outer world reflects this integration, presenting opportunities, money, and resources as a seamless extension of your inner state, proving that once you fully occupy the state of wealth consciously, you can direct it intentionally, experiencing instant manifestations repeatedly and effortlessly. And this naturally leads us to the final step, mastering the unbroken flow of abundance so that instant money becomes a permanent, self-sustaining reality. Mastering the unbroken flow of abundance means cultivating a state in which wealth, opportunity, and resources are experienced as continuous, effortless, and inevitable. Because Neville emphasized that once the subconscious is fully impressed with the feeling of already having, it will operate without interruption to bring the inner reality into outward expression. And the key is to remain vigilant in maintaining the inner state, gently correcting any thoughts, feelings, or doubts that threaten to pull you back into scarcity. And the fascinating part is that this practice transforms your consciousness so deeply that abundance becomes a natural identity rather than a temporary result. And as you live fully in this state, every decision, action, and interaction aligns with your inner assumption, allowing instant money and other manifestations to flow continuously without effort. And Neville often illustrated this with the analogy of a river. Once the dam is removed and the current is unobstructed, water flows naturally, effortlessly, and inevitably to every area it is directed. And in the same way, when your inner state is fully aligned, wealth flows into your life repeatedly, smoothly, and predictably, without struggle, waiting, or desperation. And over time, you notice that even situations that once seemed challenging now bend to your assumption, because the subconscious organizes circumstances to reflect the state you inhabit. And the more you maintain this unbroken flow, the more effortless and automatic it becomes, until living in abundance feels as natural as breathing, and every monetary need, opportunity, or desire is met as a direct reflection of your inner reality. And the outer world becomes a mirror of your identity rather than a source of struggle. And this mastery allows you to experience instant money not as a lucky event, but as a natural, constant expression of your consciousness. And once you truly embrace this, you realize that Neville's single phrase, when combined with imagination, feeling, and consistent assumption, is capable of permanently reprogramming your wealth consciousness, creating a life of effortless, limitless prosperity, which naturally leads us into the final part, fully integrating this knowledge so that the state of instant abundance becomes your permanent way of being. Fully integrating this knowledge means living in such a complete state of abundance that the experience of instant money, wealth, and prosperity is no longer a goal, practice, or aspiration, but an inherent part of your identity. Because Neville taught that consciousness is the only reality. And once your inner assumption is fully impressed, The outer world must conform, naturally, effortlessly, and without delay. And the beauty of this integration is that every aspect of your life, decisions, actions, relationships, and opportunities automatically aligns with the state you occupy, making manifestation continuous and predictable. And the fascinating part is that once this becomes habitual, you no longer need to consciously repeat affirmations or visualize in the old sense, because the subconscious is permanently impressed and your inner reality continuously expresses outwardly, producing money, solutions, and opportunities as a natural extension of who you are. And as you maintain this identity, resistance, doubt, and scarcity thoughts vanish almost entirely, leaving only certainty, joy, and expectation. And this unbroken flow transforms not just your financial reality, but your entire life experience, as every circumstance and interaction reflects the abundance you carry within. And Neville emphasized that living from the end, fully and without hesitation, is the ultimate mastery, because it eliminates the struggle between desire and lack, replacing it entirely with the effortless manifestation of your chosen reality. And over time, the outer world consistently mirrors your inner state, providing repeated confirmations that abundance is not a temporary result, but a permanent condition of consciousness. And in this way, the phrase you chose to reprogram your wealth consciousness becomes more than a tool. It becomes an expression of your identity, a natural extension of your being, and a self-sustaining force that generates instant money effortlessly, continuously, and indefinitely, proving once and for all that the power to create unlimited wealth lies entirely within the state you choose to occupy, which completes the journey from understanding, practicing, and embodying Neville's teachings to living permanently in a reality where abundance is your natural, unshakable truth.